So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end. As per Yahweh the prophet, we find a layer of understanding of the spring feast, autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah later ways from many centuries, where we find the first holy city on the land of Cush, precisely in the northern Sudan, as per the instructions of the prophet. These are the objectives then that must be set by the Hebrews themselves. They are saved in the Messiah. So then from then on, then the world can organize and then being prepared for the autumn feast. At the moment, the Gentiles then are preparing themselves for the time of precision. At the moment, we are expecting Daniel, the 11th chapter, and then verse number 5. It states then precisely, and the kingdom of the south will to be strong. Let's understand then Daniel the prophet. Daniel was also a politician, and he was also a person involved with trade, mostly trade. If you evaluate the life of Daniel, he was more than 90% trade. So then he warned us regarding then this time of the end. He said very precisely, then it would have to have a nation leader of the time of the restoration period, and this nation is China. China will rule. Then we must understand also the United States and its function related with this new system. Yet the U.S.A is vastly used around the world, but it is devaluing very fast. So the United States must then build the computer so then the nations can use for this new period of time in our history. So then, how do you do this objective? It's very simple. Africa at the moment is very complicated. Only later, as then Daniel has mentioned, then the kingdom of the north would come down and then with force will organize then Congo, where most of the riches of minerals, of rare minerals, are then stored, mostly related with technology for the purposes of trade via online. So then, with this in mind, how the United States can then come out of these mud of problems? It's very simple. Brazil has 20% of the coltan deposits. It is extremely simple because Brazil can help the United States produce the computers then used vastly around the world until Congo then is ready for trade. At the moment, you find then the prophecy very importantly already spoken, and then the U.S.A in the next 27 months will devalue very sharply. In order for us to be prepared for the time of the end, then the computer must be then built, and every signal coming from every nation, they must establish what they want tax-wise, what they want from parcels, or what then people want from the system. The more neglecting of nations, the more work on behalf of China. We don't have a choice. United States must not go down, must stay up. And the only way they can stay up is by building the computer. The computer is very simple. Is a machine with many kinds of signals, sending then the proper taxes per nation as then the people do trade with China. So how is it going to work? We understand there are many monetary systems that are virtual. We understand it's already in existence. How China is going to come out on top? It's very simple. They will have a system where then people can earn, invest, and pay using a signal directly from China into your computer, where the local central banks are not linked with it. And with the same way then they make purchases, they invest in the system of China. It is a very genius plan. If the nations are not ready with a computer where then they can direct banks, local banks, linked with the central banks, at the same time linking up the trade with each person in the computer, they won't be able to get taxes from. So then, not only the link of central banks and banks, local banks, with the nation's central bank, then they must link also with the Chinese system via then what people earn, and when they have their money coming out of the system, in order for them to use this money, they must have an exchange done instantly. These exchanges, these amounts, they must be established a percentage of taxes if a nation decides so or not. Then there is a link also with the freighters. The freighters are going to be the most important. So then, how are the governments going to maintain a steady flow of taxes if they do not have any link with the Chinese system? They must resolve this problem. United States must come up with the new system where they gather the entire world's trades, protocols, and procedures, and they put in the computer. When the time comes, when the Chinese release their market trade system and purchasing and investments, as you can understand, a huge eBay system of their own, then the Chinese system has its own banking. There you can purchase via the same system. There you can invest via the same system. From there you can receive the money of your investments through the same systems. You can have their 48 digits in your system and they can't take taxes from. There is absolutely no way at the moment of having some sort of a regulation because of the Privacy Act. So the United States has then the task and objective of coming up with the system of the computer, where they can gather this information, they can gather those people who are doing trade, they can gather the information from the central banks, local banks, and making establishment of percentages, so then each nation receive their due taxes. An example, if you are then living, for instance, in the Pacific, you are then living in New Zealand, for instance, and a New Zealander then directly has a link with the Bank of China, doing trade with China, they can purchase from anywhere in the world using Chinese fund. They won't be using their own local fund. They take their local fund and they do an exchange for the Chinese yuan, and it's linked directly with their system. When they have these money in their system, they can make any purchases around the world. Then the parcel comes to their home, or the home of hers or his or they. How is then the nations going then to charge taxes? There is only way of doing it, via the label of the freighter, where they must specify what's coming in the box, so then they can have the description, price, taxes, and then when the label is then printed or established or created or generated, then instantly taxes must be given directly into the government. So then, United States has this task to be done the next 27 months. Then later, we will find more information regarding this system, but at the moment, must study, for instance, Bitcoin, and understand the way they do trade. Then you have to incorporate, obviously, the Bank of China using the same system, but then they have the investment of their own production in it. So whatsoever you invest, you get back a portion of it. And there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of products. And the central bank has no control over it. So the United States must come up with the computer and place the details in it, where every nation then is linked with the system. It's the only way they can get taxes from. Please stay tuned, much more coming up.